Hi, welcome back everyone. I really want to thank everyone that has reached out to me, whether by phone call, messages, through my DMs, expressing, how thankful they are that I'm sharing this story and how brave I am, as a matter of fact, for sharing this story. But my mother has given me consent to share this story. She is braver than I am. She's the bravest woman that I've ever seen. And she also told me to tell you all, especially if you're battling cancer, don't give up. Fight. You need to fight. Okay? Fight for your life. I'm going to go through this story, right? And I do have my computer here because honestly, this happened over a 6-month period. And it's such a long sequence of events that I do not want to miss anything. But I'm going to first start off by saying big up God, because I don't know how we would have survived this without him. And my mom, she is very grateful. And I am in a position right now where I can share this story because I am now comfortable sharing this story. And that's because of God and what he has done in my life and her life and my family's life. So here we go. So let me start off by saying that myself and my mom, we share a very close relationship. My mother usually call me like 2-3 times a day. Just for nothing, she just call me for no reason at all. Sometimes she call me, she'll say, sleepyhead, you now wake up. Mind you, I'm not sleeping, right? Or she call me and say, you now work. Meanwhile, I am working, right? And she'll call me. If you ask them something there, right? For no reason at all, lady just call me phone, And my mother also, she called me for everything. Whether if you pay her bills online and stuff like that. But in hindsight, now as a caregiver, I know that when she called me, those things were preparing me for what was to come. And this is the first lesson that I'm going to share. God sometimes put things in our way and put people in our lives that we need. We don't know that we're going to need them or that we're going to need these tools, right? But we're going to need them. And God put those things in our lives, right? To just prep us up and prepare us for those things. So again, my mother have a very close relationship. So when she was diagnosed back in 2022 with cancer, I definitely became her advocate. She found a lump on the left side of her breast. She got the tissues removed. She did surgery to remove the tissues and also the breast. And she was good in 2023. She was very good. As a matter of fact, she was even thinking of doing reconstructive surgery to replace the breast, right? And she was undergoing chemo treatment. I remember back in March 2024, when my mom called me to tell me that excitement, the doctor said that she was good to go. She was clear and, and by the way, through this cancer treatment, you would have never known that my mom had cancer. She was just going about doing everything that she normally does. And that's what I'm telling you about the strength of this woman. Like, you would have never guessed that she was battling cancer. Only a few persons knew. And mostly it was her immediate family. And she did her she did the chemo and she did the operation to take out the tissue, right? That was March 2024. Now, one day I called my mom in May, specifically 2024. I called her and I kind of heard in the background, when you're in the hospital, you can hear like the hospital machines going off. I heard the hospital machines going off. I was like, Mommy, where are you? She didn't want to tell me. And then finally she told me that she wasn't feeling so well. And so she checked herself. Listen to this. She checked herself into the hospital. Only to find out that my mom was experiencing headaches. She is not a person that gets headaches. And so when that started to happen, that was a red flag for her that was going off. Something is wrong in her body. In addition to that, her gaits were off. She was kind of unbalanced. So she checked, she asked my aunt and my stepdad's son to bring her to the hospital, and she checked herself into the hospital. Now, in that time frame, when she went into the hospital, they did scans on her, and they saw the tumor in her brain. And, you know, it's devastating, but, you know, we were upbeat about it, saying that, you know, this is just, you know, probably just tumors. Sometimes people have those things, you know, and they do regular surgery to remove them. So we didn't see it as anything. So her surgery was scheduled for June 2024, the beginning of June. Now, I remember flying to New York early in the morning to go to be there with her for that surgery. I also remember myself and my cousin, we drove up to the hospital, and mind you, this was supposed to be a very, you know, a surgery where you just remove the tumors and she's fine and okay and she gets out. Well, I remember also having a discussion with my mother that, you know, there are certain things that we need to discuss, you know, especially about my little brother and stuff like that, and things we need to put in place for him and all those stuff. And I remember her telling me, you know, when I get out, I will we'll talk more about it and get these things done, right? There's another lesson I learned. Guys, if you are in a position where you know that you have certain illnesses or anything, don't wait. As a matter of fact, not even if you have illness, anything, do not wait. If you have things to do, you do them, because you do not know what will happen to you in the future, right? So at the beginning of June, she went into this surgery. The surgeon called me, and so they were removing the tumors from her brain, and the surgeon called me and told me that you know, the surgery went successful and everything was okay. Mind you, at the same time, my grandfather was being buried in Jamaica because he had passed away, and we were all planning to go, but then I couldn't go because of this surgery. You know, we couldn't go because of this surgery. So it was a sequence of other things that were happening at the same time. And so when the surgeon called me to tell me that the day that he performed the surgery, that everything was okay, I was like, okay, fine. I went back up, I visited her. She was in good spirits and everything, and laughing and everything. And you know, we talked and I left for the day. The following morning, on my way to the airport, I was dropping my aunt off at the airport. I got the first phone call. Houston, we have a problem. The first thing that came up with my mom is that she started to have bleeding in her brain. So the doctor told me that she had bleeding in her brain, right? And again, this is the first time that I'm hearing this word, hydrocephalus. I'm going to put the meaning right here. This is like bleeding in her brain, as I said before. And he gave us two options. The option one was to bore a hole in her brain for the fluid to leak out by itself. Or two, she can place a shunt. His advice was to do the boring of the hole and not the shunt, because sometimes a shunt will malfunction. So a shunt is like, they have there are some persons who have done surgeries in their brain and they have bleedings and they have to install a shunt in their brain, and these are programmable shunts, and they allow you can use it's like they have this, it's like a magnet, or and they can dial it, so they can put it on specific dials like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that allows the fluid to drain like a small amount of fluid or to drain a lot of fluid. So, but sometimes the shunts do malfunction, and so he advised that he was gonna bore. He's gonna go ahead. I told him, okay, fine. Let's try doing the hole, because I don't want issue with the shunt, right? So for her, he did that. That was the following day after the surgery, you know, right? The day after that, here comes another issue. That, what they did, drill the hole in her brain to drain the fluid, didn't work. So here we go now, have to put the shunt in. And we have to put it in quickly so that, because when you have fluid building up in your brain, it applies pressure to your brain, right? And you can die from it. So they have to put that in right away. So we ended up, after all, doing the shunt. All right, so that's 2 times now they have to go back in. First time they went in, they took out the tumor. Second time they did the boring of the hole. That didn't work. Third time now they have to put in the shunt. All right. She was okay. She came out. She was good, and everything was okay. Now they tested the tumor. Guess what? The tumor was cancerous. But not only was the tumor cancerous, Houston, we have another problem. Here enters leptomeningeal disease, and I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Leptomeningeal disease. It is like the worst form. It's a rare form of a disease that is formed from cancer, breast cancer specifically. It is so rare that only 10 to 20% of people that has breast cancer will develop leptomeningeal disease. My mom had that disease. It is a very deadly disease. As a matter of fact, the prognosis for it is so poor that persons normally live 6 months. So, or even less. There are persons that will die within weeks of leptomeningeal disease. We had a talk with the doctor, and we met him in the hospital, and a few group of us went up, and he advised us that, listen, with this disease, she probably will live only 6 months. That was June 2024 that he's telling us that, right? And so not only was the leptomeningeal disease was not only in her brain, it also goes into your spine. And when it enters your spine, it's like going now all over your body. So the issue, here we have a race against time, right? How can we find a solution to this? Again, I tell you that the diagnosis for this is very poor. But you know, God, but God. I'm going to say, but God in this situation. She had to heal to even start any treatments. After they found the leptomeningeal disease, my mom, and they did the surgery, she had to heal before she got any treatments, right? During that time, my family was visiting from Jamaica because we had a trip planned to Canada. Because the first trip that we did, it went awry. That's another story, guys. So we planned that trip from months out. So my family came up, and while my mom was in the hospital healing, my family and I, we went to Canada. We had a good time, you know. It was a very sad time for us, but as a family, we pulled together to ensure that we were all okay, you know. And I really appreciate that about my family. Like, they're always there, you know. But during that time also, I have calls coming through every single day, especially from palliative care. Like, they're calling me because, again, the prognosis of my mom was very poor, very, very poor. And the doctors really and truly didn't expect her to survive. By the time we came back from Canada, my mother should have started a treatment. No, this is where things get a little sticky for her. They need to give her a strong enough treatment that will penetrate her brain and go into her spine to clear this leptomeningeal disease. Think of your brain like a shell, right? Think of your head like a shell. And this, what we have here, protects our brain. There has to be a treatment that can penetrate all of that and go down into her spine to clear it. No, the doctors spoke with me and they said to me, we're going to give her this treatment. It's called NHER2. For any cancer patient that is out there, I think you have to be I'm not sure if it's HER2 positive or specific treatment has been approved by the FDA, and it's like it has been in trial for a couple of years. So when she got it, they said to me that this is the only thing that they can use to help her. They told me that it was fairly new and it was the only thing that they could try and help her. She got the first treatment. Let me tell you something. That sent her straight into a coma. My mother went into a comatose state for at least 9 days. As a daughter, you see, I cried tears to my mother that I didn't know I had to cry. I cried every day. As a matter of fact, I was so angry. Anger filled me up. I was crying at work. I was crying when I was in church. I was crying. I remember when my mother got the chemo treatment, guys, it turned her completely black. Now my mother, she's fearless. She's fair, right? Just imagine someone lying down in a coffin. You're looking at a dead person. I remember my aunt going to the hospital because I was still here in Florida, and my aunt asked me if I wanted to see her, and I told her no, I don't want to see her. I don't want to see my mother in that state. But when I tell you, I cried. And I remember being in my kitchen one day and I said, God, why? Why my mother? You know all the things that my mother has been through, God. Every single thing. Abuse. She has been fighting, and this is going through all these difficult periods in her life. And this one time that she has finally found some sort of peace and, have her husband or her son, and she enjoy life. And God, why? I'm telling you, I was angry at God. Angry. I couldn't sleep at nights. I would go to my bed and I would wake up in the middle of the night because I don't know what is going to happen, to my mother. And I don't know. And I was so frustrated. And mind you, during this time, I'm still back and forth in New York. It was a stressful period for me. Very, very stressful. Like I was driving on the road, and sometimes I don't know how I even reach home because all my mind was on my mother sitting in that hospital. Can't move, can't do anything. Boy, I tell you, my mother is really something else to the bad. But, it was very hurtful. Like, when you see my mother is strong. She's strong, and when I see her like that, like, when you see your loved ones like that, it's so hard, it's so painful. But I'm going to tell you about God. So she went in the comatose state, right? And she was in that state for like 9 days. She wasn't talking, they hook her up all over. The lady she have everything hook up. Nose, ears, mouth, every part on her hook up. But you see, God, He's faithful. He's wonderful. His promises are sure. And while I'm here cursing God, God is still there. And this is another lesson that I learned. You see, when you're going through every single trial and tribulation that you're going through, every single disease, the cancer, every single thing, in that dark place, God is there with you. He never left you. He's not going to leave you. He's there with you. And so I took a flight. I went to New York. 5 of us went to visit my mom. Mind you, she's not talking. She's not doing anything. She hasn't spoken for 9 days. She hasn't done anything for 9 days. And just string her up and she just did it. Black like a tar, may I tell you, man. Like somebody in the coffin, as I told you. And we 5 of us went to visit her. It was me, my aunt, my cousin, my stepdad, and his sister. And that day, I will never ever forget. We were in the room and she finally woke up from the comatose state. And she smiled. And she said, she can't talk. She can't talk much, right? Because you can barely hear her speak. But she's like, thank you. I heard that. After she smiled and she said that, she caught her breath. And then she said, Jesus. Mind you, lady does come out of, let me tell you, out of a comatose state. She said, Jesus. I said, Mommy, what did you say? And then I went closer to her. She stopped again and she took another breath. She said, Jesus. And I said, what about Jesus? Then she stopped again. She took another breath. Then she said, Jesus sending people them to me. Now let me tell you something. No one can tell me that my mother did not have an encounter for when she was in that comatose state. Nobody. And after that day, nobody can tell me that Jesus isn't alive and well. I'm alive. And when we're in our distress and we are cry out to him, he hears our cry. He hears our cry. Because God knows, say, me did need to hear that. He knew what I was going through. He knew the cries that I've been crying. He knew how hurt I was. My heart was basically breaking into pieces for my mother. God knew, and he heard our cries. And in that room, I kid you not, the whole of we start ball. We just started to cry. Because you could just feel like the presence of God. You would have to be there to experience it. And goosebumps is filling me up right now because I can feel his presence. He's there with us. So I'm begging you, if you are going through any type of disease right now, cancer, anything, just believe that there's a God. Believe you me. He's there with us. He has never left us and he will never leave us. So guess what? We went home all happy and we told everybody what happened because we were so happy. We stopped bawling. We stopped crying. We just told everybody and we were so happy. But for me, that was all I needed. I gave my life to Christ and believe you me. And this is why you see a smile on my face even now. Because God has showed up in my life. He has showed up in my family's life. He has showed up in my mother's life. And I've often said to my mom that even if God chooses to take her tomorrow, I'll be okay. Because it was at that point in that room that night that I knew that it was going to be okay. Whether God chose to take her, he was going to take her. And whether it was either he's going to take her or he's going to bring her through this. And either of the two I was okay with. He gave me peace. Let me tell you another story before I even go back to this one. While I was there cursing God, I remember one night praying. I remember I told you I couldn't sleep, right? And I was crying days in, day out. But I remember one night going to my bed and all I did was to ask God to give me peace and to give me strength. And it was at that time, in that room at the hospital, that I finally found peace and I also got the strength. So, my mom, she's still there after that episode. And as a matter of fact, my mom had to be moved, back and forth. So she came back out of the coma. She came back out of the coma, right? But her trials weren't done as yet. Yeah. She was, after she got that first dose of chemo, it was so strong it sent her into the coma, right? In July, I went to visit my mom. It was her birthday. I remember that morning. It was her birthday. Mind you, she was good. She was talking all that time. And so that morning I went to visit her. And I recognized, when I went to the room, I went to talk to her about something. But she had her eyes closed all the time for that period when I went to school. And then she told me that her head was hurting her. Now remember, the first time she went to the hospital, when she checked herself in the hospital, it was her head that was hurting her. Now here we are again with another headache. It was a red flag going off in my head because I'm saying, you haven't had a headache since this surgery. What is happening now? I called the nurse and the nurse said that, she didn't even have anything to give her because there was nothing on her chart because she hasn't experienced anything. It was her birthday. So I told I told the nurse what was happening, and the nurse said she would have checked with the doctor. So I left because I had to pick up her cake for her birthday. You know, I got a nice cake for her and stuff. And we came back in, all of us came back in because we are going to celebrate her. You know, it's her birthday, even though she's in the hospital. And we came back in the afternoon, and honestly, she wasn't responding. At that time, she was not responding. So you see how much things she has gone through already. She has gone through the removing of the tumor. She has gone through the leptin disease. She has to put in the shunt. Here we are now. She went in the coma. Now here we are now in another position. We don't know what's happening with her. However, we still sang her happy birthday. We still celebrated in there, even though, you know, we don't know what was happening to her at that point in time. Well, the following morning, we got another call from the doctor. The doctor told us that she had another bleeding in her brain. This time, it was at the back. And we had a very big decision to make. We can either operate on her or not operate on her. He advised us that if we did operate on her, she might die, or she would be left in a vegetative state. But basically, she's gonna suffer. That's it. And so I asked him, if it was your family member, what would you do? He told me that he wouldn't operate on her because she has already gone through so much, right? Well, for me, I don't want my mother to suffer. But this is where I learned another valuable lesson. It's good to, one, have a support system, right? Because this was where I had to make a very important call. And this call, I went on a call with all my family members, all of our close family members, and we voted and decided that, listen, we're going to go ahead, along with her husband approval, to go ahead and do the surgery. Let the chips fall where they may, right? We had 1 hour to decide that. That call was a very important call. And again, I have to big up my family because they have been there with me, with us through this very difficult time, you know, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate them. And so we made the decision to do the operation. She did the operation and she had to recover again, you know. Here we go, in July, recovering again. After that, she was moved to a different hospital because the hospital now was unable, I think probably they didn't want to take the risk of giving her any more chemo treatments there, so they moved her to a hospital that was able to facilitate her getting more treatments. When she moved to that hospital and she started getting treatments, she was starting, her left side of her body was more weaker than her right side. And she twitched a lot. Her whole body will just, her left side specifically would just be vibrating. She had to just heal, you know. You know, in addition to that, my mother wasn't eating. So she was assessed for malnutrition and all of that. So mind you, she started this surgery on June. All this time she in hospital, June, July, August, right? By September, she was good enough to be released from the hospital, but she couldn't release straight to home because she needed therapy. And she needed a special type of therapy. So here comes, she has to go to a nursing home. No. All I'm going to say with this is that if you're going to put your family members in a nursing home, honestly, some of these nursing homes are not good. This particular nursing home, I actually prayed over it. And what I'm just going to say that when you are planning to put your loved ones into a nursing home, just, if you don't have to, just don't. I didn't have a choice. And so she went to this nursing home and she was there in the middle of September. When she was there, she wasn't eating the food. We had to bring food sometimes for her and stuff. You know, I told her that, you know, you just have to eat because she still has to get her chemo treatment. Mind you, the same nursing home, she missed some of her chemo appointments too. And I remember, I think out of everything, the nursing home was probably my worst experience, because every time I went to the nursing home, my mother would say, take me home. Take me home. But I couldn't take her home because, as I said, my stepdad is elderly and I have a little brother, right? And I didn't know where to go or what to do to get her situated back at home. I had to figure it out, and I still don't know what to do. Boy, it was rough. Every day, like, her heart would break. I could see her heart just breaking every time I left her there. And then when you call the nursing home, they're not picking up, so I can't even talk to her. It used to drive me so crazy. The guilt I felt just to leave her there. Then now, another situation happened. My mother, because she wasn't moving, she also had to get an IVC filter because she was starting to have blood clots in her body, right? So she had to go back to the hospital at one point. She got the IVC filter in, and one of the worst things that happened though was that my mother, like, at a point in the nursing home, she started like nausea and vomiting, and she had pneumonia. She also developed sepsis. She developed sepsis, and she had to get a tube installed, a G tube installed in her stomach, because she could no longer take the food by her mouth, so she had to get a G tube installed. But you know, through all of this, God has been so faithful to us, to her, and she has been through so much, and I'm telling you, she's still here. This period between her first surgery to the end of the year, listen, she did not come out of the nursing home because the last thing that happened was the sepsis. And when she went to the hospital, I told them, listen, I'm not gonna bother send her back there. I'll figure out how to get her home. And she went home about the last part of December 2024. So she spent at least 6 months in the hospital, June to December. That's how long she was in between hospital and nursing home, trying to fight this cancer. The chemo that she got cleared up the leptin disease that was in her body. Her tumors have been reduced. And honestly, even though she cannot move on her own anymore, my mother is still here. She's praising God. I am praising God. Our family is praising God. And we're so grateful for her to be here. Guys, I implore you, if you are going through cancer, do not give up. If my mom can go through so many things and she's still here, I need you to fight. Fight like you've never fought before. During all of this, my mom, I remember one day I went up there and she told me, this is so hard. I know it's hard. And I told her, I know it's hard, mommy. And I said to her, if you're not going to do it for me, I beg you, do it for my little brother. He's waiting for you to come home. You know, I know it's hard, guys, but I want you to fight. So, you know, this is where I'm at right now. I am a caregiver. And I love being a caregiver. It is tiring. It is a lot of work. But I can tell you, I am so grateful that God has placed me in this position where I can take care of my family. Right? I live here in Florida and I go back and forth every single month. And I'll be showing you all that too. And I'll be giving you some tools and some tricks. Well, not tricks, but they're just tools that I use to help me help them. Right? And, you know, just have faith in God. And just know that He's always there for you guys. He's great. He's beautiful. And you all will be okay. I'll see you on the next video.